Good Monday morning. Yes, a football Monday, but one where we are licking our wounds after two very, very tough games for the Jets and the Giants for different reasons. The Giants just got completely blown out, totally overmatched. It was ugly from the start, kept getting worse and worse as the Philadelphia Eagles really showed the talent disparity between those two teams at MetLife yesterday. And the Jets hung in there, man, but the Buffalo Bills are back rounding into shape. The first half was very, very ugly, but Josh Allen was able to carry them to a victory in the end. And Mike White, man, I tell you, I've been a Mike White supporter. He got his ass kicked yesterday, kept coming back, ass kicked again, kept coming back. But I need to see him come back and be healthy and start against the Lions this week, because that's a part of it. If you want to be great, if you want to be the starter, if you want this thing to continue, you got to be available. And I know it wasn't necessarily his fault yesterday that he was getting killed, but let's come back. Let's shake this one off. Let's win a couple home games against two teams, by the way, that are playing their best football in the Lions and Jaguars. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
A lot better than Mike White is this morning,
Yeah.
I can tell you that. The pain and whatever it is, whether it be a rib, and hopefully it's not an internal organ.
Oh, God.
You remember Chris Sims went through the spleen situation and all that other stuff. I hope that's not the case. I mean, he just took two wicked shots in the same spot. It seemed like the right under part of his ribs is where the helmet and shoulder pads hit him twice. And the first time I'm thinking that he had the wind knocked out of him. The second time, not only did he get the wind knocked out of him, he also got hit right there in the rib. I have so much respect for this young man. It's not even funny. To go back out there after coming back out of the locker room after the second hit, that means to me that they may have put some numbing stuff in there just to see if he can go back out there and play. And then he was taking shots there again. And the second one, the Milano one, I don't think that there was anybody's responsibility to block Milano. He had to get rid of the ball. And I don't know. I have to go back and look at it from the all-22 to decide whether or not he had a hot receiver and that was his guy, or somebody missed a block or blew a block or blew an assignment. I don't know. But his performance yesterday, the fact that he completed 27 pass completions, in that weather, under those circumstances, are about as extreme as it gets, and it's about as uncomfortable as it gets. So, say what you want about Zach Wilson or anybody else. I figured that if Mike White was, had broken ribs and wasn't going to be able to play the next 4 weeks, I figured then maybe they would give Zach a shot to come back and start. Now would be the time to do that. But I hope that's not the case for this young man, because he's obviously shown that he belongs behind center, that he has everything that it takes to be a starting quarterback, that he understands this offense, and under extreme circumstances, he went out there and he played his ass off. So I've always had respect for these guys that play, but I have a newfound respect for Mike White. And I think Tony Romo caught it perfectly yesterday, saying, this is this guy's life. Mm-hmm. This is his career, and he knows that he has to get back out there. He knows that he has to make himself available, because what happened to him last year is now almost happened to him again this year.
Right, and that's what I was thinking last year with him coming back on the field, that he was probably saying to himself, this is not going to happen again. Like, I'm not going to get this opportunity, get hurt, and then get replaced again. I don't care if I've got 15. I don't even know how many ribs you have. I don't care if I got 15 broken ribs. I'm going back out there, and I am playing because it's that important to me. We all knew that Mike White could play after that Bengals game, but the real question was, how long could he play at a high level, and could he go through the rigors of an NFL season week in and week out? And if he comes back and he's healthy and he starts against the Detroit Lions and plays well again, all the questions have been answered about him.
But I think there's one problem, and it's something that nobody's ever going to say publicly from the team side.
Okay.
And that is, he takes a lot of hits. And you can't, for some reason, Kirk Cousins takes some hits, but he gets up and he continues to play. Tom Brady took some hits yesterday, gets up, continues to play. The hits that Mike White takes are like direct shots, and he lays himself out there and he exposes himself, and he's got to be really, really careful in regards to how he plays the position. I mean, he's just not built to withstand hits like this, and this is 2 years in a row now. So,
well,
remember
though, the Indianapolis game, that was an elbow situation. He was throwing the ball, and something happened to his elbow. It wasn't like he got hit.
But again, it's still, all I'm saying is that the most important ability that you have is availability.
Yeah.
And it's harsh. Nobody's going to say that over there. I'm just telling you that's the reality. They probably have meetings, and I know a lot of teams have meetings, and they look at players, and they look at their history, they look at what happened to them in college and everything else, and they decide whether or not they think that guy is going to be available for all of these different games. And, you just watch a lot of these quarterbacks. I mean, like Phil was pointing out, I think there were 29 different quarterbacks that had to come in off the sideline to play this year for teams. Mm-hmm. And, that's a huge problem. That is a huge problem. And then, on the other side, you have Daniel Jones playing his ass off. At least he's competing. The rest of the team was basically manhandled yesterday. And you said it, the discrepancy between the best team in the league and your team is significant.
Well, yeah, it's talent. I mean, I love the coach. I love the GM. I love what they're building there. But just right now, this roster is what it is. And today is not a day to slam the Giants and rip everybody. It's just not. I mean, because they have what they've done to put themselves in a position to even compete for a playoff spot is amazing.
And they're still in the playoffs right now.
They're right. They still are.
Because Seattle lost.
And they very well might get in. Right. Seattle ends up losing to the Carolina Panthers at home. And the Giants still have the Indianapolis Colts at the end of the year and potentially an Eagles team that's not playing for anything. So it's still there. But, I mean, we all knew this. We all knew that the Philadelphia Eagles were that much better than the Giants, and it showed. So this team, the interesting thing about the Giants going forward has this stretch that they have gone through where they're 0-3-1 in their last 4 changed the opinions of the decision makers on Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones. Those are the things I want to know. Because they were talking about Saquon Barkley giving him a contract extension during the bye week. Those were real discussions that were happening.
Well, at the worst, they could bring Saquon Barkley next year back on the franchise tag,
which is not a big number for running backs.
That's right.
Yes.
I mean, so you got to wonder. I haven't heard the number that the Giants had offered Saquon, but the Giants are covered in that regard because, that's basically a number that's manageable.
Right, it is, and they may end up doing that, but they were discussing a contract extension. They were talking about multiple years with Saquon Barkley during the bye week, and, ever since then, he's gotten banged up. It's been a shoulder, it's been a stinger, it's been this, it's been that, and his production has gone right down the tubes. So that's a part of it as well. And Daniel Jones, yes, he's playing his ass off. And we ask the question every week. We don't know the answer to it. If he had real weapons around him at wide receiver and tight end, would he be one of the top 15 quarterbacks in football? I don't know.
Again, what's the alternative?
Right, I know. That's going to be the toughest decision. It really is because, it almost would have been better from a decision-making standpoint if both these guys fell flat on their face and they won 4 games again. Because right now it's very confusing, I'm sure, for the decision-makers on what to do with these guys.
Phil Simms said yesterday in the NFL Today that both Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley will be back next year.
Okay.
That's that came right out of his mouth. And I was like, what? Really? They've already made the decision? I was shocked that he said it, and obviously he's rooting for the Giants, but they got a long way to go, man.
Of course,
and currently constructed with the injuries that they have, and with the lack of production at wide receiver, the secondary that is a complete and utter disaster, and an offensive line that basically got torched by one of the better defensive lines in football yesterday. I think Joe Shane and Brian Daboll got to sit there and go, man, holy crap, we are a long way away from being able to compete with this team at this level. And the good news is, from the perspective of the Giants and losing yesterday, and, of course, Minnesota losing to Detroit yesterday, you have now a 2-game lead by the Eagles over the Minnesota Vikings for the number 1 seed.
That is correct.
So, as you said,
it's actually a 3-game lead because they got the tiebreaker on.
Okay, so a 3-game lead on them. Right. The Cowboys are still looming.
They are.
So they're still looming. And the thing that I would say is that there is a good chance now that maybe Nick Sirianni, I don't think he's going to take the foot off the gas the next
remember,
time
they have
the
a
Giants
bye.
play.
They'll be the only team with a bye. So
Yeah, but
like,
they don't want to go into 2 weeks worth
exactly.
of buys.
That's what I'm saying. So
Yes.
they'll at least play their guys a little bit, I would imagine.
Sure, they will. At least a half, I would think.
Right.
So, yeah, I'll tell you, the other team that's really interesting is the Lions. And the Lions are coming this week to see the Jets.
Yeah, so they are 5-1 in their last 6. Their offense is borderline unstoppable at home. They score around 30 points a game at home, but going to MetLife Stadium, I'll take a look at the weather now. Who knows? We're about a week away. But
It's going to be cold.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, but I don't know if there's going to be precipitation or anything else, but that's going to be a factor. Like, they're not the same team outdoors. Jared Goff's not the same quarterback outdoors, so you at least have that going for you. But, yeah, I mean, they've completely turned it around. Everybody's making fun of them. It's funny. They did the roller coaster thing. Everybody was high on the Lions coming out of Hard Knocks. Then they went way down.
They got shut out at New England.
Just really, really bad. Everybody's making fun of Dan Campbell. This guy's not going to make it through the season. Then all the way back up as they are 5-1 in their last 6. And, there was a reason why they were favored yesterday, because they took it to the Minnesota Vikings and they won that game. And who the hell knows? I mean, they might surge right into a wild card spot at this point.
Yeah, that would be the team that I would be worried about. The fact that Seattle lost yesterday was big for the Giants. The Giants right now sit number 7. In the playoff race, and you talk about a huge game. This is why this game was flexed to Sunday night. But I don't know what this game's going to look like Sunday night.
It's going to look like every one of the games between these two teams. It's going to be the same game that they played when they tied, right? I mean, it's going to be right around there. 23-20, 2017, 2020. That's what it's going to be. Of course, we know exactly what it's going to look like.
Well, I will say that it's going to be a long week for Giant fans, and Giant fans are going to expect a victory come Sunday night. If they can get that victory on Sunday night, then you wash out the stink of this particular game, and then you probably are going to make the playoffs if you can. But you got to win Sunday night.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, if they end up beating the Commanders, and remember though, this is a tougher game than the one they had at home because it's on the road, and on top of that, the Commanders are coming off of their bye, where the Giants are coming off a game where they just completely crushed. So that to me is not a good situation for them. But, yeah, if they win that game 100%, you feel great about them grabbing one of those wild cards. And then whatever, you're in the playoffs and you see what happens. And you actually get a week as a fan to think about a playoff game, which was unfathomable prior to the season. But, I mean, on the other hand, the team that I saw yesterday doesn't look like they're going to win a game the rest of the year.
Yeah, well,
so let's remember that.
We've seen teams go through a game like that, and, let's face it, Philadelphia is rolling. Jalen Hurts is rolling. I think he probably took over the top spot for the MVP yesterday based on what Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City did out in Denver yesterday. Threw 3 interceptions. It was, not pretty, and that game should never even had a life to it until he threw 2 interceptions in the first half, and Russell Wilson somehow, got his team into the end zone. The other thing I would say about the Jets with Mike White, hopefully he's going to be able to be okay and play. And number 2 is Quinnen Williams.
Yeah, I know.
That's a big loss for them. And the thing about what Detroit has one of the better offensive lines in football. That's one of the reasons why they're playing as well. And now with Jameson Williams back, you have basically 3 wide receivers that you got to deal with.
Sure, absolutely. And their run game is one that has to be reckoned with as well. So, yeah, I mean, that team, if Jared Goff is playing the way that he has played the last 5 out of 6 weeks, I mean, then they really could pick off anybody. But their defense is still horrible. You got to remember that. And this is why I think, if you get – so it's going to be 36 degrees. That's what it says on Sunday. The wind's about 10 to 20, but it doesn't look like any precipitation. So, I mean, Mike White should be able to put up some numbers against that defense. He should be able to.
I haven't heard anything about, what the hospital visit revealed.
Well, it said that it was fine. He ended up being out on the plane. He checked out okay. I mean, it didn't seem like he's got a bruised pancreas or anything. Sounds like he's all right. So he popped on the plane. I'm sure that as the week goes on, there'll be some more, pain that he has to deal with, right?
He's going to wake up this morning if he got any sleep last night at all.
Yeah.
I mean, every breath he takes is going to hurt.
Sure. But it doesn't sound like he broke any ribs. It just sounds like maybe they were
cartilage, rib cartilage or something.
Bruised ribs or whatever. So
Ugh.
I know.
Brutal, man.
Is right. Yeah, he's got to put on one of those jackets. I heard them talking about it on the warm-up show. He's right. Al's right. He's got to put on one of those flak jackets. Kirk Cousins got one of those things.
Yeah, but I mean,
Little flak jacket action.
I'll bring a flak jacket in for you tomorrow, Al, and you don't even have bad ribs. And I'll put G put the helmet on behind me, the Terps helmet, and I'll have him run that helmet right into those ribs. Okay, and then you can tell me how you feel. All right.
Well, Tony Romo used to always wear that flak jacket.
Worked out for him.
Yeah.
It's working out for Kirk. I don't know what you're talking about. You act like you know more than we do about the flak jacket. It's crazy.
I kind of do know a little bit more about it than you guys do.
Do you still have a flak jacket?
No, I never really wore a flak
Oh, okay.
jacket.
But the way you talked about it, you're going to bring one in tomorrow.
I mean, I'll go get one. I can get one. They're
Yeah,
not
get one.
hard to get.
I saw Dan Pastorini wearing one, take a bat swing to it, and didn't flinch.
Okay.
I think we know more about the flak jacket than you. You
think
should just
know.
really
Okay,
just
yeah.
admit that.
I'm not going to admit anything when it comes to this
because
you guys are just amazing. Just throw the guy out there. It doesn't matter.
Well, flak jacket.
I'm
Yeah.
surprised Tony Romo didn't even suggest it during the game.
I think he was wearing something, wasn't he?
Not like the big one.
Like the other thing about wearing one of those big ones like that.
Yeah.
I mean, those things are cumbersome. They get in the way.
I mean, I can't
Why I
believe
never wore one of those.
like
things.
you and Tony Romo don't know anything about flak jackets. It's crazy. Yeah, please just take
Why
the L.
don't you idiots take the L on
You guys
this?
didn't even wear cups, which is crazy.
Right, we didn't wear cups. Yeah, we don't wear cups.
I mean,
My God.
I think you know everything because you played the position.
I mean, by the way, you look at these players, they don't even wear knee pads or thigh pads or anything.
No.
And in some cases, they don't even want to wear shoulder pads.
Remember the girdle? You know the girdle?
Yeah, I remember the girdle. You pull the girdle up, it had the hip pads, had the ass pad, and everything. Yes.
They don't wear the girdles in the NFL, do they?
No, the funny thing is, I remember when Bill Cowher was playing.
He had a girdle?
And he was a special teams guy. He had those padded hand gloves,
Oh, yeah.
the arm sleeve,
Oh,
the
goodness.
neck roll,
Right. My goodness.
wore huge shoulder pads.
Got to protect yourself.
Not anymore now. The boys go out there. They try to wear as little as they possibly can.
All right, it's Boomer and Gio on the Fan and CBS Sports Network. Plenty to get to. CeeLo in for Jerry this morning. I have his first update coming up just a couple of minutes. Got some weather for you, brought to you by BioNTech and Pfizer. I saw my first snow this morning.